Welcome to episode 16, one-on-one with yours truly, Jeff Dantzler. Great to have a legend with us, my buddy, the lefty, Greene. David, you faced all those great SEC teams. We won a ton of games, SEC championship. How does that challenge compare to being the father of four, my friend?
I tell you what, it was a lot easier playing those SEC games, facing those LSU blitzes with Saban than it is for right now during this whole COVID pandemic. That's for sure.
All right, we were talking about this with beach trips looming. You might not want to give it away, but I thought you had a brilliant idea because, as we've said, the only bad part about going to the beach is actually going to the beach, lugging the coolers and the umbrellas. And for you, I can't imagine what kind of dump trucks and sand sifters and toys you've got taken out there. I think you've got a brilliant idea that could make you tens of millions of dollars.
And JD, you can't think I'm the first person that's thought of this, but you need, like on snow skiing, you need those chair lifts, man. Take you straight from the condo, take it right down to the beach, or at least some kind of zip line that you can just throw your cooler and your umbrellas on that stuff and and send it down there, because you can't tell me people would not pay big money to do that. Tell you a quick story. We were in Santa Rosa Beach, this is probably 2 years ago, and we were staying with some buddies, and they were actually staying off the water. And we parked and we were walking down to the stairs to go down to the beach. And as we're getting close to the stairs, I look and I've got stuff on both shoulders. My traps are cramping. I got the cooler and everything, and my wagon's falling over. And when I get there, I see the very top of the flagpole, and I'm thinking, oh no. And sure enough, I had like 50 flights of stairs to go down. And I'm like, never again. So next day, our bags were a lot lighter, I can promise you.
Well, and especially when that strap's over a sunburned shoulder, that feels extra good. So, all right, you got 4 kids. Get everybody caught up to date on your family, your children, basically life with David Greene after Georgia football, after the NFL.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So my oldest is 12. All my kids go to Hebron Christian Academy over in Decula. My 12-year-old got back into playing baseball this year. So he didn't – when he was 8 years old, he quit after he was 8. Anybody that's got kids, 8-year-olds kind of when they start kid pitch. And I think he got hit about every time he stepped in a batter's box. And then every time he pitched, he was hitting other kids. And he's like, Dad, this is not a whole lot of fun. And I really couldn't blame him. So he quit playing for 4 years and then came back this year and joined the team and just absolutely loved it, had a great experience. Getting ready for football now. So he's starting to do that conditioning with a lot of other kids around the state right now. And I've got a 9-year-old that plays baseball and football and basketball as well. I got a 3-year-old son that is he's the one that's going to be our challenge, JD, a little bit. He's bullheaded and yeah, he's a hot mess. And then we've got a 10-month-old girl. So we finally had a girl. She was a little bit of a surprise, but a great surprise. And we got her 1-year-old birthday coming up in August. And by the way, Veronica, my wife, our anniversary is today as well, 14 years.
Well, happy anniversary. And I'll tell you, as with all of us, you have definitely outkicked your coverage, because she's absolutely a beautiful, beautiful girl. And she is one of those girls that she is as wonderful and beautiful on the inside as she is on the out.
No, I appreciate that, JD. I definitely outkicked my coverage. We started dating in high school, and I had to get her before she knew better.
Well, Greene, your story in high school is pretty incredible, and I think it speaks so much to the belief, what a good coach can do, what inspiration, what good old-fashioned confidence can do. Take us through your program, the emergence of Coach McFerrin, and I guess was it between your sophomore and junior years when That's you right. guys literally went from Death Valley to Pikes Peak?
Yeah, it was crazy. So growing up, we'd always kind of won the GFL championship in Gwinnett, which was Gwinnett's a huge county, and so winning GFL was a big deal. So I was kind of used to success in that thing growing up. We get into 9th grade, I back up on varsity, and I think we went 2-8 or whatnot. And then my 10th grade year is first year I ever started. and we went 0-10. We were the worst team in the history of South Gwinnett High School. Still, I mean,
Can't do any worse.
You can't do any worse, but nobody else has been winless either. And so I was part of that team, and we really were the bad news bears. It was bad. And so they have a coaching change. They bring in T. McFerrin out of retirement. And if anybody, a lot of people in the state of Georgia know him because he's coached so long, but he's won state championships multiple places. And he came in and and really just set the tone immediately, changed our helmets, our uniforms. And I think a lot of us players got confidence because we knew the success that he had at the other places. He had the blueprint, and he liked to keep things simple. And JD, that's what I always love about great coaches. They can take things sometimes that may look complex, but they simplify it to where it's really simple, where you can just go out and play ball. And then he went in the school system and find kids that were in the band or, just playing, poker over there on the side. I was like, hey, you can play ball, and brought them out to football. And sure enough, my junior year, we had a kid, Ted Crawford, that never played football in his life. And after one season, got a full ride to South Carolina as a wide receiver. And so I always tell a lot of folks, kudos to Coach McFerrin, because if he wasn't there, I certainly would have been at Georgia.
I think you're spot on there. When you can keep it simple for your players, but it's difficult for the other team to defend or to go up against, to me, that's a perfect system, no matter what the sport is.
Yeah, I mean, communication is huge. If you can, there's no sense in making things more difficult than when they have to be. It's funny, when I was in high school, we may call it R90 hitch or something like that. And that was a 5-yard hitch route. You get into the pros, it's like, let's double the dot slot right, zoom motion, 200 jet X slant, and it's the same play, and so the further you get along, the more complicated they seem to make it. But I always felt, at least with football, a lot of times you got great athletes. The last thing you want them doing is thinking too much and hesitating. Just let them go out and play ball. And Coach McFerrin was good at that.
And you're spot on there. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with coaching, but in many ways it can be like learning a different language. And I was thinking about this, say, when the Falcons, when Kyle Shanahan left, if I was a new OC, I'd have gone to Matt Ryan and said, what did you do last year? Maybe they did this. What was your system? What was your cadence? Because sometimes blue might be left and red might be right. Even numbers might mean one thing, odd the other.
Right.
In the next year, it's totally different. And I think that is one of the things that when you do go through and you see, and especially we all know offensive coordinators, you can call 70 great plays and one bad one, and everybody's going to be all over you. But that's part of the challenge when you do get that new guy in. And so, with Kirby, with Todd Monken coming in here, I would think just that communication, and would you think simplification is going to be so important for this year's success?
There's no doubt. I mean, what's one thing Coach Rick did when he first came to Georgia? We call pass 44 demon. Well, pass 44 is protection. Demon told everybody what to do on that play, receiver-wise and backs and the whole deal. So there's no sense in making this thing real wordy and the whole deal. And I'll tell you a funny story. Remember Big J-Lo, Big Jared Lorenzen?
The hefty, the late great. I love J-Lo.
J-Lo, he could play ball, man. And a lot of people obviously talked about his weight, but the kid could play. And and I didn't hear this from Jared, but I heard it from some other folks. They said when he was in with the Giants, the plays were so long, and obviously coaches can talk in your headset. They would call in the play, and he understood what the coach was saying, what the play was, but he had a hard time repeating it because he couldn't sequence it just right. So what he had the guys do is turn the volume up real loud in his helmet, and the coach would call the play in, and he would lean his head in, and then he'd go, on one, ready? And so the coach would call the play, and then he would just say on one or two or whatnot when he was in the pros.
I love it. Just keep it simple. Now, David, let's get to your journey to Georgia first. You've got a lot of Auburn ties in your family, and obviously amongst your many great plays, probably your most famous one was Greene to Johnson and what turned out to lead us to the championship game and the SEC title in 2002. So what swung things Georgia's way for you?
Well, one, I loved Coach Donnan. One thing about Coach Donnan, I'm always grateful for this. He really saw a lot in me really before anybody else did. You know, he had asked me, because obviously there wasn't a whole lot of good game film my sophomore year as an Owen quarterback. After my junior year, I played pretty well that year. And he invited me to camp, and he said, look, I would love to see you come out here and compete. And I did well. And he brought me straight up to his offices and offered me a scholarship. Well, as we know, it happens with a lot of schools. Once you get that first one, a lot of the other ones start coming in as well. But he believed in me right off the bat. I mean, right there in high school, you know, he was very confident that I could play at the University of Georgia and do well. And he was pretty outspoken about it. I mean, we all know Coach, you know, we know Coach Donnan, and if he believes in a guy, he's not afraid to say it. And I was not a highly recruited guy, but he saw something in me that he certainly liked and felt that we could win with. And so I was certainly grateful for that. And when I came to Georgia and toured the place, I said, man, why go anywhere else? This is 45 minutes down the road. It's got everything I could ever want. I love the feel of the place. And, you know, we had obviously grew up as Auburn fans. Auburn certainly had their eye on Jason Campbell. That was a guy they really wanted. And it really worked out for Jason and myself both. I mean, I think he started 3 years. I got to start 4. It couldn't have worked out any better.
Hey, Coach Donnan, and you were really blessed to play for Coach McFerrin, Coach Donnan, and Coach Rick. And Coach Donnan's always joked, said, God, if I'd have known they were going to fire me, I wouldn't have redshirted David Greene. You do think about how rules and things are different. I love the 4-game rule now, where you can play 4 games and still keep that red shirt. You know, who knows how history's different back then, because obviously you would have played, but at that point you got deeper in the season. We didn't want to burn your red shirt year.
Well, I'll tell you, the best thing that happened to me, honestly, was the coaching change. And the reason is it set the table flat for everybody. Because I tell you what, Corey Phillips ran Coach Donnan's offense extremely well. You know as well as I do. Remember him, he threw for 400 yards for, I think, Kentucky. Then I think he threw for 400 yards against Georgia Tech. He ran Coach Donnan's system extremely well. When they made that coaching change, now we were learning at the same time a new offense. So it kind of set everybody back at the same level at that point. So, I mean, that ended up being a huge blessing for me. Obviously, I hated to see Coach Donnan leave, because he was the one that brought me in and believed in me. But certainly when everybody was learning at the same time, I think it certainly worked to my advantage.
I think that's a great lesson in making the most of a situation. Now, David, another thing too, I'm sure you get this a lot with your kids, obviously all kinds of different sports, and just about every pro athlete played different sports. You know, some of the travel ball, getting locked in there, maybe doing just baseball all year. I just don't think it's good for you. Well, baseball, you were great at that. And I remember both Coach Polk and Coach Perno were like, if you didn't play quarterback, you were going to be our left-hand hitting DH over there with that short porch. I think you'd have hit a bunch of home runs for us.
I'll tell you another funny story, JD. So we're at my senior year. We knew the manager of the baseball team pretty well, and we lived right over there by Foley Field, some apartments right there in Northview. Well, we'd come out there on like Wednesday nights after, say the opposing team had taken BP, and the manager would let us come out there and take some BP as well. And Perno didn't know about it, because, he's back at the house sleeping. It's 9 o'clock at night. And so we've done this 2 or 3 times, and the lights are on at the field, and we're trying to relive like glory days, like trying to hit home runs out of Foley Field. And I'm up to bat, and like Pollock's pitching or somebody like that. And you got Russ Tanner in the outfield, and a bunch of us goons are out there, having a big time. And Coach Pernos comes down the left field line. Well, the manager's name was Mark, and he turns as white as your shirt. And he's like, I'm about to get fired. So Perno comes down there and says, what the heck's going on out here? It's 9 o'clock. Somebody calls, so the lights were still on. And then I'm up to bat, and I'm kind of freaking out too. And he says, well, who's up to bat? And Mark goes, well, that's Greene. He said, well, you tell that son of a gun, he's had a chance to play here, and tell him to get the heck out of here. So we just cleaned up and left, and we didn't come back and do it again.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Greedy, your freshman year was 2000. Kirby's senior year was 98. So you guys just missed each other. But I know, like all of us old dogs there, just what he's doing here, what he's done here, we know he's going to be here forever. Just the excitement really is at an all-time high now.
There's no question. Look, the passion that he has is contagious. I mean, you just love the one thing as a fan we realize is he's going to do everything in his possible, anything possible for this team to win championships and excellence in every aspect of the word. So, I mean, I love it. I love that he's here. He's doing a great job. He loves Georgia. You can tell he loves football. He loves these kids. He recruits hard. We definitely got the right guy in there.
Greene, you're going through these unprecedented times right now. I think you've told some really good stories that come as good advice and good motivation. And you were on the community service team. You always did so much for people around you. And I think especially when times are tough, and obviously we're in just insane times right now. As I like to say, being that light in the darkness, light shines brightest in the darkness. It's extra important right now, isn't it?
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, it's certainly challenging times, and I think for me right now, I don't even like to turn on the TVs hardly, just because it's stressful. And when you got kids, and I think the importance of just caring for each other, loving one another, trying to take the extra time to help people out when you can, and show people that you appreciate them. It's at an all-time high right now because there's so much uncertainty with the economy, socially with things going on. When we have a chance to help somebody out, we need to take advantage of it and do it because it's needed right now.
And definitely out of bad times, a lot of good things can emerge. And again, you brought up two great examples. That's why football is such a great life lesson. Who in the world would have thought you guys would have gone from 0-10 in high school to winning your region the next year? Or as you said, just you had a coaching change, and then lo and behold, you wind up being the starter. Just that stick-to-itiveness and hard work and doing things right can absolutely pay off.
It's funny too, JD, just the camaraderie you build with your buddies too. When people ask what I miss about football, it's really not game day. It's the relationships that you build. There's something said when you're in the trenches together with a bunch of guys and you realize that they're counting on you, you're counting on them. And the whole mood of the state is dictated on how you play in the next 4 hours. And so there's a pressure, there's accountability. And when you go through those things together, it's amazing how much, the kind of bonds that you can build. And you can't replace this or even try to duplicate it in any other setting.
It really is. It's the journey along the way. And I think especially when you're a player, it's the road trips, like you said, those Wednesday nights, just hanging out and bonding, those times together that are so incredibly special. One final thing for you here. Arguably the best quarterback of all time. Were you surprised, number one, that he left New England? And number two, you got to tell us that he was afraid you were going to Lou Gehrig, Wally PIPP him too, right?
He was definitely afraid of Wally PIPP, which is, I think that just goes into play how hungry he was to be great. And to add on to what you were saying, back in 2007 when I was there, it was like week 7 or 8. He's winning the MVP race. He's throwing 5 touchdowns a game, but he had real bad tendonitis in his elbow. And he wouldn't come out of practice. And, I'm trying to encourage him to come out just so I can get a couple of reps. And he wouldn't. He was afraid. He asked me if I knew who Wally PIPP was, and I didn't know who he was. And that's when he proceeded to tell me that he played, first base for the New York Yankees until Lou Gehrig came in. But he was afraid of being the next Wally PIPP, believe it or not. Not necessarily probably from me, but just in general to whoever was going to be the backup. There's a part of me that was shocked, but I think just looking at his mannerisms a little bit last year, normally he's got such a stoic approach to everything. I think last year he kind of showed his emotions a little bit more on the field than what I had seen in years past. What made me think, that there were those frustrations, that there was probably more to it. And plus, I think he's just getting a little bit older now, and he's going, hey, look, I can be a little bit more outspoken. And he is. I mean, he used to be a closed book. He's more outspoken on Twitter and jokes around and that kind of deal. So there's going to be a lot of talent down there in Tampa. I'm excited to watch him play.
Well, Greene, we always loved watching you play. Obviously, you're one of the most beloved Bulldogs ever. And I'm so glad through some work together in the media that you and I have gotten to be friends. And you're just a great role model for so many people. And the Georgia faithful are rightful and their love for you, left-hander. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
JD, appreciate you, buddy. Good to be with you as always.
All right, and my man Albus wanted to say hello to you too.
Yeah, hey, Pop.
Bulldogs. There you go. All right, Greedy, we're gonna just give me like 1% on the thing for the beach stuff. The gondolas, beach gondolas.
Somebody's taking my idea right now, and they're probably drawing up the blueprints.
All right, 14. Appreciate it. He is
good, buddy.
David Greene. We'll see you next week right here with Bulldog Illustrated.